So I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to, because there are people in this world that are committed to ignorance and believing that racism is a thing of the past, and that those who are speaking about it and who are protesting about it are the ones who are actually racist and making it a thing that it's not. So this video is a summation of my experiences as a Black woman in America and abroad. Again, this is my experience, so just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean that it's not there. If you are open to receiving and educating yourself about this topic, then I would highly suggest that you stay through the entire video. But if not, then this video is not for you, and I would highly suggest that you just bounce. Hey guys, it's Natalie here once again, and today we have a deep topic that I think is very relevant in the world, and really right now as well, because there is a lot of things that's happening in the world about this topic right here, which is racism. One of the most popular questions that people have asked me since I have returned from my 5 years abroad in Korea is,
so how was it? How was it living in Korea? Like, did you experience any racism?
I've talked about this topic a few times in the past on this channel, including my Black in Korea video, which I have somewhere up here. I think I made that video about 8 months into my stay in Korea. And I know I've talked about it a few other times throughout my videos on this channel as well. So in this video, I'm going to break down the similarities of racism between both America and Korea. And I'm going to talk about how racism in both countries are different. So if you're interested in watching, then stay tuned. So the first similarity between Korea and America is that the white male is seen as the most supreme race. Let me explain. I'm going to start off with Korea in this aspect. Korea, you should know, is a homogenous society. That means that everyone, or 99 or 95% of people in Korea are Korean. So there's not that much diversity that is happening in Korea. Within Korea and within that foreigner population, white men are seen as the most superior foreigner of that group. In Korea, white men, and I will also say white women, are seen as less threatening than any of their other counterparts. These individuals are also seen as being more American than anyone else. I'll give you some examples. One thing that I realized when I was searching for my second job in Korea was that a lot of the recruiters were looking for Americans. Even though there are 7 main countries where English speakers can come from in order to teach English in Korea, a lot of these recruiters were looking primarily for American. Now, you would think, oh, I'm American, boom, I got it, right? But you find out later that when you reach out to them that you're not quite what they're looking for. You're not American enough. In Korea, the idea of what an American is a white person. So what I have seen happen is in many schools in Korea, if parents do not like the teacher, if parents feel as if the teacher is not teaching or can't teach their child correctly because they're not American enough, i.e. they're not white, the school itself, primarily like private schools, hog ones, will find any reason to fire that individual. For these schools, money is the most important. Making the parents happy is the most important, and therefore they can't bear to lose that income. They would rather lose a Black teacher and replace with a white teacher to make the parents happy rather than standing up for this Black teacher in their school. In America, it should be known that white men are seen as the most supreme. This should not be news to anybody because the entire institution of America was built off of white supremacy. Now, one book that I would recommend you reading, whether you're Black, white, or any other race in the United States, is the book White Fragility. I'll put like a picture like here of it. I'm actually currently reading this book, and it's really written towards white people. It's written by a white person towards white people, basically explaining what racism is, what white superiority is, and how racism does not look like what people think it does. But like I was saying, America was built for white people to succeed. In America, white is seen as the norm. What I mean by that is that anything that deviates from that norm is seen as abnormal, or it's seen as different. So for example, when it comes to being the most beautiful person in America or the most beautiful person in the world, it's usually directed towards Eurocentric features. Black people and people of color were only afforded their equal rights and equal protection under the law in the 1960s after having to fight for it over and over. And who gave us, Black people, that ability? Who gave us those rights? The white people. White people who are in power have to be able to sign off and give us those rights. When you look at the most powerful positions in America, whether it be governmental positions, whether it be the president, vice president positions, whether it be the cabinet, Senate, Congress, House, even on the state level, chiefs, mayors, governors, people in these positions are overwhelmingly white. And that's what I mean by when I say that white superiority has been institutionalized, because the people that are in power to make these decisions for others are white. We have come to a point in time where there is an awakening happening, not only within the Black community, but within the community or within the society of America, to realize and understand that Black lives are inherently seen as not equal to other races. And this comes in the form of police brutality, mass incarceration, redlining, governmental assistance, etc. I can keep going about that. So the second similarity between Korea and American racism is that stereotypes matter and stereotypes affect people. Stereotypes against people of color are overwhelmingly negative. And these negative stereotypes feed into this deep internal biases that is present in pretty much every person in the United States. Whether that comes in the form of,
"Wow, you speak so eloquent.
Can you teach me how to twerk?"
You're not like other Black people, that's why I like you."
These are all examples of internalized biases that is fueled by racism and that perpetuates and continues racism throughout our society. In Korea, negative stereotypes are a factor that people like me have to deal with. Now, most Koreans will never meet another person of color in their lifetimes. So the only information that Koreans get about Black people and other people of color is through the media. So they take what they see and go with it, unless they see something different. These stereotypes are aggressiveness, criminality, hypersexualization, and it goes even deeper into which country is this person from and what is their financial status. So for example, when I'm in Korea and I'm in a taxi, taxis like to try to, make some small talk. But all of the questions that are asked in the taxi is geared towards determining what ranking are you, meaning how much respect should I give you. The first question that is always asked when I'm in the car is, where are you from? Boom. That question right there is trying to decide what kind of Black are you. Are you an African Black or are you an other Black? In Korea, there are two completely different standards. And if you say that you're African, you are notched down on this hierarchical chart. You say you're American and you are met with surprise and some kind of dignity, like it's better than being Black and African. The next thing that they ask you is, what do you do? That is asking, what are you doing in this country? How are you making money and how much money are you making? In both countries, these stereotypes depict how someone is going to react to you. People experience some kind of anxiety when they are in the room with you due to these deeply embedded biases that people have. So this preference for whiteness bleeds into colorism in both countries. Now, colorism is the idea that someone of a different color, predominantly a lighter skin color, is more beautiful or is provided more opportunity or is somehow better than someone who is of darker skin tone. So within Korea, colorism is a huge thing. I believe that America is getting better at identifying colorism and nipping it in the bud, even though it is still a thing that does happen. So in Korea, the whiter your skin is, the better. When I asked coworkers and Korean friends, why is whiter skin or lighter skin seen as being better? And their explanation goes back to the Joseon dynasty. In the dynasty era, it was a sign of status. It was a sign of wealth. It was a sign of royalty. Similarly, if you look within I would say the black community, there's colorism within the black community itself. And I'm speaking just because I'm black and I experience it and understand. There's this idea in the black community, at least in the African American black community, that whiteness or lighter skin or preference for lighter skin came from slavery era, because the slaves that were lighter were the ones that worked indoors, and therefore they got preferential treatment. There's a duality between Korea and America in the idea of colorism, but I believe it goes even further than that. I believe that there is a basis of preference for Eurocentric features. So in Korea, the preference for whiteness bleeds into colorism in the form of surgical procedures, hairstyling, makeup products, skincare products. One of the things that I know I mentioned multiple times in regards to skin products is the vastness of whitening and brightening skin products. In Korea, more than 20% of the population undergoes some kind of plastic surgery. And the most famous procedure that is done for Koreans is the double eyelid surgery. A lot of students, a lot of individuals in Korea, a lot of Koreans, they get the double eyelid surgery because they feel like it makes them look beautiful. They feel like it makes their eyes bigger. And that is understandable. This procedure is usually gifted. It's provided as a gift for high school students or high school students going into college. It's a thing. The double eyelid procedure was actually a racially created procedure. The founder and creator of the double eyelid surgery was Dr. Ralph Millard. He was a plastic surgeon during the Korean World War. So the purpose of him creating this procedure and performing it on Koreans was that Asian eyes, aka monolids, are the epitome of stoical and unemotional manner of the Oriental. Basically what he's saying is that the natural Korean or Asian eyes is harsh or unemotional, or it doesn't really show what they're thinking. Therefore, double eyelids, like American eyelids, Eurocentric eyelids, are preferred. This procedure was created in order to make Asians look more European and more pleasing and more and nicer to others. And from that point of the Korean War until now, the eyelid procedure has become the most widely done surgical procedure in Korea to date. Getting double eyelid surgery in Korea has become a norm, and honestly, I've had plenty of students who have undergone that procedure over summer and they come back with new eyes. That Eurocentric preference for eyelids is racist. Now, my next point I know a lot of people are probably most interested about is, do you get treated differently? And there is some sort of differential treatment that does happen. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was the start of protection against violence, protections against inequality, protections against discrimination for people of color and black people. At that point of time, it was America signifying that people who don't look white are treated differently, and therefore we need to do something about it and put it into law to ensure the rights of these people are protected. In Korea, that has not happened yet, again because it is a homogenous society. there are not many laws that protect foreigners. In Korea, if anything happened to me that involved the police, so me, an individual, and the police, what I have personally experienced is that the police, the Korean police, will believe the Korean before they believe me. I have to fight 4 times as hard in Korea in order to be heard and to be believed and for an action to be done. When I talk about Korea in the sense of race and racial relations, I usually compare it to America in the 1950s. Korea is highly advanced, technologically wise, economy wise, highly advanced. But in regards to social change and social awareness, racial wise, there is a lot of growth that needs to happen, especially because Korea is becoming a globalized nation, and therefore they're going to have a lot of interactions, a lot of incoming expats within their community. One thing that I did notice in Korea is that due to this influx of foreigners, due to many Koreans now marrying out of their race, or bringing outside foreigners into the country in order to marry and have kids, schools are now faced with a new issue, which is how can we integrate these mixed race students into our public schools. So now Korea has adopted new initiatives in order to help increase emotional intelligence of the current students in regards to the feelings and well-being of mixed race kids. School districts have even created training programs for teachers for them to understand how to interact with these mixed race students. However, a lot of these trainings and programs is rooted in the fact that these individuals need to assimilate into our culture rather than trying to understand the duality of their lives. I will say that in Korea, I did not experience any outright racist behavior due to me being a foreigner or black. In the job hiring process, that's a little different. It took me 8 months to find a job in Korea. And even after I did find a job in Korea, there was a slight hesitation when it came to choosing me as the final candidate. I remember someone who I worked with once saying that they took a chance with hiring me because I was vastly different from the other teachers that they've had. Though my credentials with the previous teachers were similar and our gender were the same, the main thing that was different was our race. In America, I have experienced being pulled over for no reason. One time I was pulled over to check my handicap sticker to ensure that it was mine because there was an influx of handicap stickers being stolen out of other people's cars within that area. So I was pulled over as I was driving by a cop twice in a month to check my handicap sticker. Now let's talk about the difference of racism between Korea and America. And there's one big difference that I would like to mention, and that is fear. In Korea, there could be instances of you being treated different because of your race or the fact that you're a foreigner. In Korea, people may have stereotypical ideas of what you are based off of what you look like. But in Korea, I have never felt like I had to fear for my life because of it. In America, racism is rooted in hate and ignorance. The hate and ignorance that I speak of is taught through generations and generations of white supremacy. Coming back to America, I have learned that I have to be on alert at all times because anything can tick somebody off, and people feel like they would be justified in taking any action against me because my skin already criminalizes me and already vilifies me in their eyes. I do not feel as safe in America as I did in Korea. When you live in a country when there is a large population of people, especially people in power, who are highly prejudicial towards people of color and that truly believe that for some reason your race dictates the value of your life. That is what's scary. I fear for my life. I fear for the life of my brother. I fear for the life of my family members. I fear for the life of my friends, all of who are Black, because of this. You never know. You don't want to become the next hashtag in America. I cannot tell you how many hashtags the United States went through while I was living in Korea for 5 years. And every single time I saw a new hashtag, it was a reminder of the value or the lack of value that my life has. As a race, we went through a collective mourning. Every single time that happens, it reminds us the value of our life. Every single time it happens, we get more and more and more and more and more exhausted. Why do we have to fight to prove that we are valuable? Coupled with the fact that the person who killed a Black person does not get prosecuted for it. That is telling me that my life is not as valuable as the white man. So all in all, I will say that yes, racism is prevalent in both America and Korea. However, racism is not emitted the same way. I do not fear for my life due to racism in Korea. I do not actually fear for my life at all in Korea. Well, maybe like if I'm a taxi driver and they're driving crazy. But other than that, I don't fear for my life. In America, however, I'm always side-eyeing. Anyways, I know I talked about a lot of things in this video. I want to know what you think. Do you feel like racism in America is different than racism abroad? And if you experienced racism abroad, exactly what was it? Tell me what your experience was down below. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. See you next video. Bye.